For a long time, I think people felt like we didn't particularly have homeless people because you cannot visibly see them on the street at times. Now, sometimes you can.
It caught us off guard, actually, because my husband was working in McAllister, but then the plant closed. And he was without work for 3 years. And we had no money, we had no food, we had no transportation, we had nothing.
Sometimes if you can't pay the bills, you have to move on. And you're looking for a place to live again.
A good question to ask oneself is how many weeks without a paycheck would it take for you to become homeless? A lot of people, it would probably take a long, long time if they really saved well and planned well. The average middle income person doesn't have a large savings. You can only imagine how long it would take for you to become homeless.
Homelessness and hunger are very real problems in Ada, as they are in cities large and small throughout the nation. Many think the homeless are a transient population, but the truth is most are natives of the communities in which they find themselves displaced, and many are entire families.
We see all. We see women with children, we see men with children. Without women, we see young men by themselves, and that's so hard because they just get kicked out of the house and they've made some wrong choices. Their family has, done that, and they're not going to let them back around them. It usually always falls down to family disagreements. Family has washed their hands of them. They've made some wrong choices, and they're out here struggling. Don't know where to turn. Don't know what to do.
I was confused of where our next meal was going to come from, or where we were going to put our kids down in a warm place to live, because it was in the dead of winter. It was in the middle of an ice storm. Where else am I going to put my kids? If I didn't have a place, as long as my kids were warm and fed, I didn't care. I feel like I couldn't take care of my kids, I couldn't take care of my family. It's not a good feeling at all.
Realizing the local nature of homelessness and its devastating impact on families, 2 Ada-based organizations are doing all they can to serve those who need it most. Ada Area Community Emergency Services, or ACES for short, works to provide emergency shelter for the homeless.
We actually start with an intake, and we find out a little information about what is going on with you at the present time, and why you have become homeless, and what your plan is to become self-sufficient, and what kind of steps could you make toward doing that. We provide 3 nights of emergency lodging at a local hotel. We provide, or if you're needing prevention services such as a utility bill paid to keep you in the home, we like to do that versus sending people to a hotel because we believe that prevention is very important. Then after the 3 days, if someone is still experiencing homelessness, then we certainly try to get you to a shelter. So our goal is to not have anyone on the street or living in their car or in a tent, or whatever situation they might be in if they are homeless.
ACES is a nonprofit organization that formed in 2003 and started helping the homeless in early 2004. Funded in large part by the Ada Regional United Way, ACES assists an average of 50 to 60 homeless persons each month, and that number tends to be higher during winter months. Many homeless persons try to rely on their extended families, but that is not a permanent solution.
Well, when I was 18, I got kicked out of the foster home I was in, and I just went from house to house and got to where there was no income. I got with my second husband, there was no income at all. My husband wasn't working, I'm not able to work. And my 4 kids, we just went from place to place, finding a place to stay. I went to my sisters, his moms, his brothers, his aunts, his uncles, but everybody has a full house. So we just went to where we could at least find a place to lay down, especially for our kids.
It really goes back to, Southern hospitality. A lot of times they'll stay with friends and family. Now, if they're coming into friends and family's house and they're not able to pay the rent and they're not able to assist with the buying of food, then it's not uncommon for families to become argumentative and for the guests to be asked to leave. After 1 to 2 weeks, they say it's kind of like fish. After a few days, it goes bad. And that's what happens with love eviction. And I would say that probably 95% of the people that we see are suffering from love eviction. They've lost their house due to being evicted, or not able to pay their rent, or they've just come into town and they're staying with friends. And somehow or another, it takes a lot of money to actually get your own place, such as working with the rental deposit and then getting your deposits, into the utilities. Sometimes it's not uncommon for a utility deposit to be over $100.
ACES does much more than provide emergency shelter. It provides homeless persons with the opportunity to start over.
That's when I think our job becomes more satisfying than frustrating. Is actually when you see somebody that's out there really, really trying to make it work and actually making it work. And they come back in and they'll tell you about it. We kind of become friends with these people at some point because you see them at Walmart and they say, yeah, I'm working, I got an apartment, and I got a house, and it's good. That's a good thing. We'd like to see more of that.
Well, Gabby and I started talking. She told me what she was doing. And I asked her if there's any way we could get help. She said, sure. She put us up in a motel for 3 nights. A warm place because it was still in the wintertime. She gave us a voucher for food. Since we were in the motel room, she gave us a voucher to get something to eat. If Gabby hadn't helped us back then, I wouldn't be here now. There's no way. But our situation has improved, but she's helped tremendously. I don't know what we would have done without ACES.
A lot of people say, well, they're homeless because they choose to be homeless. Not necessarily true. There are a lot of people that actually choose different behaviors or it's a learned behavior that actually result in becoming homeless. What we try to do is break that cycle and break that learned behavior so that they can learn to have their place here in Ada. And most people want to be self-sufficient and actually be a member of our community. And it's good when we see that happening.
Hunger is another serious problem plaguing some Ada residents, some homeless and some not. The Matthew 25 mission, headquartered at St. Luke's Episcopal Church, provides emergency food and healthcare products to hundreds of local people in need each month.
We were surprised to find out that the elderly are in need, and a lot of those elderly people right now seem to be raising grandchildren in their home, and that was something that we found out along the way, as well as younger families who just need a little bit from time to time to get over the hump, to be able to provide for their families. And we think about the children in that process, because if children don't get enough to eat at home, they're going to perform poorly at school. Trying to take the load off the grocery bill from month to month is also a way of perhaps diffusing situations at home that could get pretty tense when there's not enough to eat.
Matthew 25 Mission has been providing food for the needy in the Ada area since 2002.
It began really with a phone call one really cold winter day when a girl had previously called the Red Cross and had a 1-month-old infant, and she was on her way to the Red Cross to receive diapers from them, although they didn't have the diapers and we needed to provide them. So I thought about that, this girl who risked taking a 1-month-old out in very, very bad weather in order just to get some diapers. And we decided that we needed to provide some services that would help families like that, as well as elderly and folks across the spectrum. So 4 years ago last June we began the Matthew 25 mission, and it's taken from that 25th chapter of Matthew where it says, I was hungry and you gave me something to eat.
Like ACES, Matthew 25 Mission has experienced a constant demand for services over the past few years and must rely on the community's support in order to succeed.
Right now we're averaging about 230 households on that particular day when we distribute. We could probably do more, and we have done more in the past. There came a point when we had to limit participation, people receiving food, to Pontotoc County, and that reduced the workload to some degree. But this has been a community effort, and I can't stress that enough. It began as a church effort, but people from within the community have responded in so many different ways.
Individuals, if they would like to help ACES or any of the organizations helping homeless people, of course, donations are always, there's never enough money. Cash is great, but we will also accept any non-perishable foods like anything that's ready to eat, like crackers and peanut butter and things that they can take to the hotel room that they don't have to prepare. Toiletries of any kind, very helpful for people to be able to be well groomed and ready to go out and find a house or find employment.
There are several things that you can do. First, and very importantly, is donations, financial donations. We order once a month from the Oklahoma City Food Bank, and we are able to buy food at a very, very reasonable price, much more reasonable than any of the discount centers that are available in any community. Also, we're in need of plastic bags. One of the things that is absolutely necessary for our ministry are old bags that could be recycled, whether they come from Walmart or any of the other places that give those out. Another thing is just to volunteer your time and your talent. We have several opportunities for people on the Wednesday and the Thursday each month that we distribute. We prepare on Wednesday and we distribute on Thursday, but there are a number of things people can help us do. Everything from lugging groceries into our church to distributing them on that particular morning when we do that. And last but not least, to pray for the ministry, to offer prayers for those who are homeless and are in need, those who hopefully will find their way to us, and as well us to them.
ACES, Matthew 25 Mission, and other emergency services organizations operate out of separate locations. Communication is very good among them, particularly after the implementation of the 211 telephone referral network. But some would like to see another central shelter constructed in Ada, like the Helping Hand shelter that housed and fed many for years near downtown.
Well, of course, we would really like to have a shelter again, an emergency shelter in Ada. I think that utilizing the local hotels it helps a little bit. It provides a respite for 3 days, but it's not a long-term solution, of course. Actually assisting them in becoming self-sufficient is the long-term end-all goal for ACES.
I was part of a board early on that was a homeless shelter, and because of all kinds of concerns that we had for the particular building that we were in, it finally had to shut its doors, but the need was still there.
An emergency shelter would be able to house them up into a point where we could help case manage them into self-sufficiency and actually give them time to get into work and get those first paychecks and get enough money to get the deposits down on the house and the utility deposits paid. We're talking the basic fundamentals of existence here.
Both ACES and Matthew 25 Mission are examples of many community organizations that strive to take care of those who need it most. Homelessness and hunger can strike any age and any situation.
I find that most of the needs can be met, at least temporarily, for people who are in situations that are ongoing. Perhaps we're not able to meet as many of those needs as we would like to, but at least in a temporary sense, providing immediate shelter, food, clothing, health care. I think Ada's responding very, very well.
My kids are doing great. They're doing really good. They're all in school. They're all doing good. My little one hadn't been in the hospital for the last year because he's not getting cold. So hopefully it'll keep on the right track.